Hi everybody, welcome to another Toy Guys Talking, and I'm very excited to have on the show this week Mate Mylar, who was mentioned on previous Toy Guys Talking with Matt, and Matt in part of that chat said, have you seen Mate Mylar's pictures? And I didn't put the pictures to the name, and when he started describing them and showing them to me, I was like, yeah, I know these pictures. Like, everyone knows these pictures. And then when he told me that they're actually based on box art, which I hadn't put together, and showed me, like, I can actually go on the picture. I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to Instagram, but you can swipe to the side and, like, there's the box art and there's the picture you made. blew my mind, dude.
Wow.
Your pictures are incredible. They are pure magic. All of the love and reverence that I talk about, the magic and the spirit of the 80s that I love so much, you get that. You capture that. You did the time rip. You reached in the 80s and you pull a piece out every single time you post one of those pictures. They're so beautiful.
Wow, thank you so much. That's amazing.
And have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. No, they take my breath away, and I wanted to look at a few of them as we're chatting today, and I'm just taking a look at Zartan with the dreadnoughts behind. Another recent one is Firefly with the detonator.
Yes.
With the explosions. Like, I have so many questions, but I guess my first question is, do you like talking about how you do these things?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I will talk to anyone forever about this if they show the slightest bit of interest.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Cool, because I always want to check. You know, some people are like, I don't want to, in wrestling, they call it breaking kayfabe. Like, I don't want to shatter the illusion. But, like, my first question is, like, the explosions. How do you go about doing that?
Explosions are just, I got some here. So this is the camera facing side. And inside it's just chicken wire, and I call it lighting gel. And I'm an audio engineer, so I work in, like, live sound and that sort of thing. So I'm around this stuff all the time. But other people call it cellophane, like colored cellophane or whatnot. So it's just some of that red inside of some cotton, some black on the outside to cut it down, and I think, flashlight. So you just take, like, any light source and throw it inside, and then,
oh my lord,
it's an explosion, right? And, like, it's cotton and chicken wire, so this one explosion I can reshape and form and, like, upside down. It doesn't really matter, and you get all kinds of variations out of just that one thing.
Yeah, for the folks who are listening along, because the podcast, in addition to being on YouTube now, is also available on your favorite podcast catchers out there. Again, I'm a kind of a novice with this stuff, but I put a vote up on the Patreon site asking, does anyone want Toy Guys Talking on the go? And the vote was overwhelmingly yes. Release it as an audio-only podcast too, for people who don't have data like me, streaming, roaming data. So for folks listening to this, I encourage you, when you're home from work, check out just the first few minutes of this video at about the 3-minute mark. When you put the flashlight on that explosion effect, it is wild. Like it just looks incredible.
Your reaction was my reaction the first time I saw it. I couldn't believe I was seeing that without any camera tricks or post-processing or whatever. And then, like, the gears really started to move about what I can do and what was possible with just a little bit of cotton and some gel.
That should have been, you might have just discovered it. Maybe it just hasn't really existed. But that should have been sold, or should now be sold, as an accessory for not just Joe, but all toys, because you put that, and light it behind a figure. There's all these great backdrops and great, printing. Toy Hacks, I think does some, or the custom backdrops. But that is the ultimate backdrop for a G.I. Joe figure or a vehicle.
Absolutely. I mean, it's in all the artwork from until they went blue or purple or whatever they changed the artwork to. I mean, it's there for years. So I have a good excuse to put an explosion in anything, even if it's not box art recreation or whatever. I'm staying true to what Hasbro trained me to do as a little kid. Like, explosions go everywhere.
So let's see here, 82, 83, 84, 85. After 4 years of doing, how many years have you been doing the pictures?
I started in January, so
Okay.
not even a year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after 4 years, are you going to get lazy and just do a digital background on your computer monitor?
Yeah, it's going to be all pixelated
No more practical effects. But I think that's another reason why your pictures blow me away so much is because there's no photoshopping, there's no CGI, and for my pictures, that's what I do.
right.
Like I'll try to go outside and get as much of the real stuff as possible, but sometimes, like just recently with my Brave Star pictures, the area that I'm shooting in it looks like a desert and it's beautiful. It goes on forever for a toy. I mean, for a human, it goes
Yeah.
on for a couple blocks, but for a toy, it looks like it goes on forever, and it's barren and dusty and bright green trees everywhere on the skyline. I'm like,
I saw that today. It's awesome.
yeah, so what I need to do is I have to Photoshop the trees out and put in the pink sky, so that's a little bit of Photoshopping here. And then like, the spirit animals and stuff.
Yeah.
Same with the visionaries, heavy Photoshopping there. Just because like that's my physical deal these days is, sitting in a chair, and just kind of working away on a Photoshop instead of like the actual like legwork that you're doing with all this stuff. Like how long does it take to let's say the APC, like a vehicle like that, or the Vamp, how long does it take from concept to completion?
So when I first started, it's a bit of a sliding scale. So first started out, I had to build everything. I had to build the sets, the terrain, the backgrounds, explosions, the clouds, and whatnot. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not a photographer. I just had an iPhone. So
Really?
I mean,
Wow.
yeah. So I mean, I'm figuring it out all as I go, like lighting, what looks good for lighting, what makes it stand out, and like figuring out key lighting and rim lighting and all that stuff, and just looking at movies and stills and whatnot. And why do I like this image more than I like this image? What is it about that? And talking to my lighting guy at work, like, hey man, like, don't tell anyone an audio guy is into lighting, but tell me about what you do and that sort of thing. So when I first started, it was a good 3 days to build it, to stage it, and then to get the look that I wanted and actually take the picture. And now, I mean, all this stuff is built. I've got all kinds of like effects for lasers and that sort of thing that
Are
I can
those
just
just
throw together.
straws? Are the laser
Yeah.
beams just straws?
So the red thing inside is a straw, and outside it's just I'm not sure if it's styrene, but just like clear piping. So
Okay.
I can take the straw out, and that's what I used for the ram, to get the Gatling gun on the ram.
That's amazing.
And then putting this inside, and I can use it more as a whole laser on like a hiss or something like that.
Yeah.
But I can throw together a box art in like 45 minutes now. So I can do a number in a day, bank them, and then go on tour, go to a big corporate gig for a week or whatever, and be able to post as often as I do, and get a little downtime, and then bank some more photos and whatnot. Or yeah,
That's
so really quick now.
And I think the reason it connects with so many people is because you're playing. Like you're not just, it's awesome to go outside, and I'm always recommending people go outside, get some sunshine. And I used to take nature photos, and no one cared, or correction, 2 people cared, 3 people cared. When I started putting Brave Star or Dusty or Flint in the picture, quite a few more people cared, because it's this language. I wasn't speaking the Joe language before, and now it's this unifying language for people all around the world. And you're reminding people, and maybe a lot of people have forgotten, when you put a figure on a shelf and you don't do anything with it, especially when you live in terror of don't touch it, don't move it, don't break that elbow, don't crack the elbow, the crotch piece, don't break it. That people live in terror, and they're like, oh, it's nice from a distance. But I think what your pictures really speak to something inside when we used to be kids, and the toy, it wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the
Yes.
creativity. It wasn't the end. So it was a tool, not like the be all end all. And while I didn't use laser beams and stuff, I wish I did. But we imagined the laser beams, we imagined all the smoke. So you're kind of materializing all the stuff that we used to imagine.
It's so much fun. I mean, I have to be honest, I didn't imagine this level of detail when I was a kid playing with them. The effects and everything were kind of back in my mind, as opposed to the story and the content and why is this guy doing what he's doing and that sort of thing. But as an adult, you're right. I mean, I I broke my collection out. I started getting back into it and filling in the holes, and devoted a room to it and set up shelves and everything. And that was a very fun process. And I completed it all. And then I was like, what am I going to do now?
Now what? I know that feeling. Now
how
what?
do I play with these now?
Yeah.
Like what, as an adult, I can't get on the floor and
Pew pew,
and that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't interest me to do that, to be clear. But I want to find some way to enjoy it instead of just coming in the room, closing the door, shutting out the world, and just enjoying what I've made. So being able to pose them and to tell stories, and I did a little story over the summer. The Snake Eyes gets kidnapped and gets a bat arm, and Dr. Mindbender, and made a character, a Kit Bashed with a Cobra Da'ako, but changed him into a Tiger Force version, Tigra Da'ako. So this Brazilian Cobra agent that had it out for Snake Eyes and whatever. So I can kind of pepper that in with the box art and the comics and whatnot. It's just so much fun to take this world that everybody knows and reinterpret it, but still be true to the core of that world.
Have you heard from any of the people who actually worked on Joe, either past or present?
No.
Really? They are watching, I guarantee you. They
Amazing.
are. Yeah, they are. Because I'm kind of in the same boat where maybe I'll always feel like I'm just doing this little thing, and I'll hear from, one of these guys and one of those guys, and they're like, yeah, I've seen your stuff. You've seen my stuff? Seriously? And like a few weeks ago, someone sent me a heads up saying, have you been over to the Transformers official site? And I'm like, no. Why? The Transformers official site has liked one of my videos, and which is really, really awesome. But then what blew my mind is they've only liked one video ever. So They have like their liked playlist, one video. So like, I can't wrap my head around that. Hasbro knows what I'm doing here. And not just that, they're digging it. So I guarantee you people have seen your stuff. They love it because it reinvigorates, it revives all that stuff. And it probably won't be too long until, either you get a message or you bump into someone maybe at a convention or something, and they'll go, oh yeah, I've seen your stuff. It's amazing. You do everything practical, which I really appreciate, because I'm old school and I always think in the movies, practical effects so much better than CGI, which sometimes you need CGI, but sometimes people go overboard with it. Have you ever used any like photoshopping just to tweak?
I have, but not with toy photography. I mean, I do some graphic design, and I'm not a professional by any stretch, but local theater productions here in Halifax have contracted me to do posters in the style of like George Lucas, like the Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost. Yeah, that's that sort of old style, and I've done anime style stuff for 3D theater shows and projection mapping and that sort of thing. So I'm familiar with Photoshop and that sort of thing as it pertains to graphic design. But as far as editing photos, like, it's just point and shoot. I didn't want to be constrained to a computer. I didn't want to be taking something that, like, in the audio world, we have a term, fix it in the mix, and I hate doing that. I want to get the gold like onto tape. Yeah. What I want people to hear, I want to capture that. I don't want to have to massage it into something that it really wasn't in the first place. So it can be a lot of legwork in the end, but when you take that picture and then I open it on my phone and all I have to do is go post, like, that's very satisfying.
So you don't even tweak the saturation or the gamma exposure, any of that?
I'll do like the magic wand thing on the iPhone, and those little sliders or whatever. I won't do too much. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing. So yeah, it's like magic wand, and then I'll pay attention to what that magic wand did, and then kind of unexaggerate that a little bit, so it's not so much. But yeah, for the most part, it's point and shoot, and up we go. Yeah,
the expression they use, it's similar in filmmaking, fix it in post.
Yeah.
And that's a notorious expression. We'll fix it in post because it's just, it's an admission of laziness, and you can't fix it in post. You can try to polish the turd a little bit. But it's always better to just do the legwork and, try to do as much, on set or on location as possible. But isn't it amazing that now, like, everyone has not just a camera, but an amazing camera. Like,
Yeah.
because, back in the day when I was going to school for filmmaking and stuff, like I had, a not very good video camera with a not very good picture. And then my wife and I just bought the cheapest point and shoot. It's called a Lumix, I think, a Panasonic Lumix. And they were trying to sell us like this one has a lens that comes off and this one does this and that. And I'm like, I'm not versed in that and I never will be. Like I run and gun, yo Joe. Yeah. I need to point and shoot. There's no time, baby. So we got this Lumix and we used it for years. And it was, that was 15 years ago when we got that thing, and this thing still works and it's still amazing. Yeah. It's like 8 megapixel. But we recently got an iPad, and that's all the pictures I take now are with the iPad, and it just blow me away. Like, I don't know the technical terms for it, but the thing that's the subject of the picture is perfectly in focus and lit beautifully, and saturation and vibrance and all that. The thing around it is the perfect amount of blurry, so you get that perspective. And this is stuff that, years before with a manual lens and stuff, you would really have to know your stuff and take a long time to do. And these days you point and shoot, and the thing you still sort of need is a good eye, because when you're like out someplace and you say, hey, can you take a picture of us? And they take a picture and there's like 5 feet above your head and you're cut off at the knees, and and you look at it, you're like, who would frame like this? Like, are you?
I just try to golden rule everything, the rule of thirds, and get the focus on like the top third, within the top third of the image, and that's that's about it. Everything else is just like details and candy.
What's been your? We'll talk about the actual Joe toys in a second, but I'm just curious, what's been your favorite or favorites so far of the pictures you've done?
Oh, wow. The Vamp, there's just something about the Vamp that, like, I don't know enough. I don't know why it's better than the others. I don't know why I like it more than the others, but there's something about the Vamp, some sort of magic I did.
It's the Joe car. I mean, it's like the Interceptor for Mad Max. It's just the first, and to a lot of people, the best Joe car.
Yeah. And that was one of the ones I didn't have to fuss with it. I just threw it up, and I took the picture, and you know what? I'm done. Yeah. That's it.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Big fan of the G.I. Joe 34 Sky Striker, Rattler. Just started doing prints of that one this week. Hopefully get those back from the printer tomorrow. I'm super stoked for that. They're like children, though. It's hard to pick a favorite.
Exactly. They really are. Like in any creative venture that people do, whether it's pictures or movies or, even customs. When people do customs or even touch-up paints and stuff, you ask a person, what's your favorite thing that you've repainted? Like, I don't know. Like, that's the whole point. Like, the point is to do the thing and then do the next thing. And it's a perpetual work in progress. And if you get really good at that, I think you don't really spend much time looking back and going, oh yeah, that one and that one. Like if someone asks me, what's your favorite video? It takes me a minute to remember what I've done. Like all I can really talk about is the one I'm working on right now.
Exactly. And that's the one that deserves your most attention.
Yeah. Looking at a few more of your pictures, the flames coming out of the bat flame hand.
Yeah.
Just incredible. And the MMS. I mean, the MMS is a vehicle that probably doesn't get much love in terms of the first few years of Joe's. It's just kind of the forgotten vehicle, but like you show the power, like the monstrous power of the thing and why Hawk heads up this team. Like it's just incredible. The Ram with just the perfect little bit of glare, the giant explosion of fire coming out of the Gatling gun on the Ram. Really, really impressive stuff.
Thank you.
Wow. The rest of this could just be me sitting here going, wow, wow, wow. This is, blowtorch. That's just incredible. Blowtorch with the exploding background behind him. That's great.
That's him right there. And so, there's the flame, and I just put an LED in the end of the flame and stood him up like that.
That's now they've started doing that with toys, or I guess they've done it for a few years now, but it's just like a little clear piece of plastic that you plug on. Some
Like
of
the
the
Siege
yeah,
Transformers.
Siege Tree,
Yeah,
exactly. I got one of those Target Masters, whoever it was inspired by Firebolt.
right.
And I thought, well, that's really cool. Like put these little plugs on, but they're not lit up. Like they have
Yeah.
to light up. They have to be illuminated for it to really come to life. And those are the accessories. Maybe if a Black Series of GI Joe were to ever come out, why not like a little light up LED attachment for Blowtorch's flamethrower?
It's so easy. I mean, they have to figure out a power source, something to give it enough juice to make it really bright enough. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you put any amount of light in there, it's going to be better than no light at all, and it's going to look pretty decent.
Yeah, there are some lightsabers. I believe there's the 6th scale lightsabers for Star Wars figures. Unfortunately, the batteries aren't replaceable. It's like a
Right.
one and done, which really that's not good at all. I mean,
No.
to have it never be replaceable. Come on, like you're supposed to be the society that's reusing everything, reduce, reuse, recycle, and all that. But lights are definitely you're even even your picture of. What is this thing called again? The weapons transport. This is like this is such a inconsequential vehicle that just puts along, carries a little bomb, and this picture is like, whoa.
That was my first vehicle ever. That is my childhood weapons transport. Christmas
amazing.
of 1985, I think.
And it's not just about the figures either, or the vehicles. It's about the figures too. I'm looking at an amazing picture of Ripcord. With it's not bad enough that he's flying through the air, probably waiting till the last second to pull the ripcord, but he's got an explosion behind him. So just picture like your pictures really do tell 1,000. They're worth 1,000 words. Like I'm just picturing him dodging explosions through the air. So
I took a little creative liberty on that one instead of putting the explosion right in the center, and yeah, I want to give him that feeling of actually flying through the air or falling through the air because he hasn't pulled his chute yet.
yeah, weaving.
Yeah.
And then they're not all just recreations of the card art and box art. I see one with Tiger Force, Duke, and Dusty, and they're giving away free kittens. And Battle Cat
Cringer
is
in the background?
chomping. Yeah, Battle Cat is chomping on some Cobra. Oh, that's fantastic. So going back to the actual toys, what time period did you grow up in? What year of Joe did you were you first introduced to Joe?
I was born in 1980, so started watching the cartoon.
You like how I didn't outright ask you how old you are?
Yeah.
I just kind of, just kind of.
That's all good. No, almost 40. Proud of it. I
Yeah.
feel 17. Well, I people tell me I look 17, but I feel like 80.
It's not the years, it's the mileage.
Exactly. Started watching the cartoon when I was 4. Got my first Joes when I was 5. But
was
we
your
lived
first one?
outside. My first one was Ripcord.
Yeah, everyone remembers their first Joe.
Yeah. But we lived a fair bit outside of the toy community, like the toy stores and whatnot in the city. We were an hour outside of the city, so didn't get there too often. And like maybe once a summer, we'd get in there. So I only had one carded figure from 84 and maybe 2 from 85. And then the movie came out and the cartoon just went to repeats of like the mass device. And so I had no new material. There were new Joes on the shelves, but I didn't know any of their backstory or anything like that. And I really wanted that 82 to 85.
Yeah.
I wanted those figures and I couldn't get them. And yeah, so my heart belongs to like that first era right up until the movie. I'll count the movie. It's very polarizing for some people. There's some great aspects of that movie, some really great stuff. And there's some questionable content in there as well. But yeah, for me, 85's the cutoff. Like that's the golden year. Everything that came before it and my Joe universe is just that.
Did you see Tiger Force and Slaughter's Marauders in stores when you were growing up?
Yeah, I saw them in stores, but again, no backstory. So it's like, why is GI Joe driving Cobra vehicles painted different
Right.
colors? It didn't make sense.
But if you were never able to hunt down, like, let's say the original Dusty, did Tiger Force Dusty cut it for you, or Slaughter's Marauders Spirit, or did you look at those and go, it's a
You
not
know
as
what? I
good
got the
repaint?
Dusty for Christmas. It probably would have been 87, 88, whatever the Dusty came out, and I was like, "Yes, Dusty, this is awesome. He fits. At least the look, the silhouette, and everything fits. It was kind of green and didn't have a whole lot of yellow on it, so that was great. I loved it. But truth be told, I did have an original Dusty, so really, I just got the bipod, and
Yeah.
that's what that was good for.
Yeah. I just recently picked up a spare bipod from Marauders. And
Nice.
like a buck 50, something like that. I got a bunch of little odds and ends, knickknacks, and I thought, well, it's not going to look right. It's going to be big. It's going to be whatever. It's going to be there is the bottom line for me. It's going to be there on his gun, and I don't care. It really truly doesn't bother me that it's not the original and doesn't even look like it. So this is my whole expectation, and then I get it and I look at it and I'm like, really? That's tiny. That's kind of like the original. Stick it on the gun. I'm like, that's absolutely perfect. It's
Yeah.
even just a slight bit snug. It's not loose. And I'm thinking, well, to each his own. If someone wants to drop $30 or $50 on an original Dusty bipod, go for it. But man, I feel like I really made out very well. $1.50 for a perfect bipod.
Totally. I mean, I'll luck out every once in a while and get something in a lot, or it'll be in a vehicle that I bought they didn't know, and something's rattling around, and like lift tickets mic will fall out, or some
Oh,
random goodness like that. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, if it looks the part, it's fine with me. Like I got a bunch of Black Major Storm Shadows, the reissues, and they go on my originals because they look good, and I can't tell the difference. And honestly, the bow fits in a lot tighter than the one original that I have. So I
Yeah.
keep the original nice in the baggie, but yeah, for pictures and wear and tear, then yeah, I got a bunch of the reissues.
What's the last picture, vehicle or Joe that you think we'll ever see from you? You just go, you have it, but you're like, I ain't wasting the time on this thing.
The thing that I'll take a picture of, wow,
Like
anything neon,
the last.
anything neon, like the Badger. I forget what it's called, but it's black and it's got, I think, neon tires, and it shot a glider. It also shot missiles. It was really odd looking. Avenger or Attacker or, oh wait, I got the box. The Attack Cruiser. Here, hold on. That.
Oh man, the attack cruiser, yeah, with the big. That looks like the same type of kind of little glider thing that one of the Cobra Commander figures came out with.
Sorry, what was that?
One of the later Cobra Commander figures, the one with the clear red mask
Yeah.
that looked like it should have come off, but it was glued on. He came with the glider that's on top of that, a different, like a recolor of that
Right.
glider.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the neon and glider years. So
Yeah, I'll be staying away from that. The Destro's Despoiler was kind of a weird one for me. I knew of a Tiger Force Tiger Cat for $60 local, and I'm like, I'm going to get this. And I walked in, and beside it was Destro and his Despoiler for $40. And I'm like, okay, well, eBay alone, I can't touch that. That's
yeah,
yeah, super super good. So for
absolutely.
$40, yeah, I'll take a picture of something that's newer than 85.
I think the real magic with the despoiler is it's like it's to me it's not complete. It's kind of like that Prime video that I just did, the Jada Prime diecast Prime. So a lot of people don't like it. You know, what is this? Where's the trailer? And when I did the review, like my reactions were live as you're seeing it. I didn't open it up beforehand and play with it and form any thoughts. And as I'm going through, I'm like, this thing is not complete. This is not intended to be the end of the story. This is kind of like what we said, right? This is like the old days. This is the start of the play. And so I started to put it beside the other trucks and started to try different trailers on it and put drivers in it. I'm like, this thing is awesome, especially for the price. So, it's kind of the same thing there, don't you think?
Yeah, Absolutely.
Were there any other toy lines that you had growing up or were interested in?
Uh, Transformers to a certain extent.
Mm.
All my friends wanted Optimus Prime. That was a big thing. I never had him as a kid. I got him as an adult. Like it for the nostalgia, but man, that thing's hard to play with and pose and do anything like that. Ninja Turtles a little bit. Air Raiders, Starcom, Dino Riders, a little bit of that stuff, but it was all like, okay, this is what everyone else is doing. I'm just going to go back to G.I. Joe and yeah, play with that. So G.I. Joe was my main focus. When I was in the toy playing years, and then collecting a little bit, I called it, it fits under comic books, so it's okay when I was a teenager. And then as an adult, it's like, you know what, I don't really care who knows. And yeah, I'm just going to stick with the G.I. Joe. That being said, I'm a huge Transformers Siege fan.
Yeah, they are.
I cannot
amazing.
get enough of those. The G1 accurate for the most part in the robot mode, and they're so fun to pose and play
sense.
with.
They make sense.
And
There's
interchangeable.
yeah. There's there's never any parts where I look and I go, well, that's dumb, or why'd they cheap out on that? And they just make total sense. I love that the pegs are compatible with, the all the way back to 84. Like Optimus's gun will fit in a lot of the Siege figures. They didn't mess with that. And all the little details. Like, to me, Siege is the Transformers version of the 25th anniversary of G.I. Joe. Like,
I absolutely agree. I have them side by side on my modern, not in the G.I. Joe room shelf, and the similarities is like, it's uncanny. It's definitely the modern version.
Why do you think that so many companies that own these properties, because so many toy fans, it was all about the attention to detail. Why do you think these companies only care about the name and they go, no one cares about the details? So the point I'm trying to make is a company that makes a movie called G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, and nobody looks like they used to. Instead, they're all in black leather suits, and every single, it doesn't matter what came before. All that matters is the name. Why do you think that these companies do that?
I could be wrong. I reserve the right to be wrong, but I tend to think it.
I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken.
Right.
That old saying.
I think what it comes down to is ROI and people in a boardroom making decisions and looking at how much are we going to pay and how much money are we going to get in, and throwing a name on something or trying to follow the recent trend. I think Iron Man came out around the same time as the G.I. Joe, or maybe it was X-Men or whatever, and the suits seemed a lot very similar. That was a big movie, so someone in a room somewhere went, okay, well, this money or this look made this much money, so we need to have this much return on it, not being familiar with the brand and not necessarily caring about the brand. And I think it could be just one guy or a team of guys making a bunch of bad decisions, or it could be just a bunch of tiny little decisions along the way that eventually the original vision gets lost, and what we end up with isn't true to the brand.
Yeah, the word I like to use is the spirit.
Yes.
It's not the same in spirit or mood or tone. I'm the first guy to go, okay, if that word didn't work for you, then let's crack open the thesaurus and find something that means the same. Because I'm not trying to get, spiritual or religious about the whole, but it's a feeling for me. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of people who get paid a lot of money and wear a suit for a living don't get, things don't hit the heart. Now, obviously there are exceptions. There's lots of people who are like that, but I just get the feeling, I've seen so many examples of like buttoned down, overly serious, the facts, the numbers, the focus groups, that's what's important. And like you said, the black suits, and also the changing of the times where the 80s were all about being fun and wholesome, pushing the envelope just a little bit, but people would eject out of the jet and not perish and burn to death. Like it's some people go cheesy. I go wholesome, optimistic, upbeat, not cruel. Like that's the one I always say. Like it's not cruel. So when they put everyone in black, once again, okay, great, you got the name right. You didn't get anything else right. You didn't get not just the look, but the feel of everything. Like the whole point of GI Joe was, look, war is hell, and we're not trying to recreate war here. Like, this isn't based on a true story. This is supposed to be a tribute to the men and women who serve. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be inspiring. It's not supposed to break your heart. It's not supposed to depress you. So that's what I love about the 80s Joes, and even the 60s Joes were fun, right? Even though they didn't have a comic or a cartoon, they had those commercials with the kids, and even the song G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe. Like, it's upbeat. And I think at the moment, I'm not a pessimist and say things suck, everything used to be better. I always like to think of it as a way of like, we'll come around. But at the moment, we're kind of in the, to watch my language, my French Canadian, the BA period. Everything's got to be BA. I hear that word so much. You probably hear it with your pictures. Man, that's BA. Yeah. And like,
I'm a purveyor of the BA every once in a while.
Yeah, but your pictures are so fun to me. Like, to me, BA is Snake Plissken. That's always the connection that I make. And when I'm thinking, is it Snake Plissken? No, it's not Snake Plissken. Snake is a dark, grumpy, moody guy, kind of brokenhearted, the ultimate pessimist, like no faith whatsoever. Strong, smart, he's the top, soldier, but I don't use that word for things that put a smile on my face. I don't understand how it's kind of like sick or ill, or I bet
it's a catchphrase that has a connotation of being positive, but it might not be the best word in the situation. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it'll evolve. Like BA will go away, and then something else like terminal, or like just something else, horrible.
Trying to bring back righteous.
Like righteous is excellent. Yeah,
righteous.
Because it's appropriate. Not something like oozing or infected. Oh man, your pictures are infection. Yeah.
The kids these days.
So what do you think? I kind of have a feeling what your answer will be. What do you think your most ambitious picture ever would be?
I see you smiling. I think but
I think everyone does. But there's actually, I think there's kind of two choices.
I have to blow up a flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the long-term goal. Ever since I did the Sky Striker, one of the first ones that I did, something in the back of my mind went, if this is a success, but you got to buy a flag and blow it up. So I'm looking. I haven't found one for the right price yet, but slowly I'm thinking about building or getting it at a little piece at a time, get the tower and whatnot. I'm not really concerned about the satellite, the antennas and all that noise. It's going to look like a flag with the deck and the tower and a lot of that. If I really want it, I can mold it out of styrene or foam or do something that looks appropriate for the situation. But that's a long time dream of mine right there. Not even blowing it up, just having it.
I think the most satisfying way to go about getting something like the flag or the Defiant. Last week, Matt was saying he doesn't have a flag, but he has a Defiant, and that he bought a Defiant that was almost complete, and then he bought another one from, I believe, Kokomo Toys, which it had the parts he was missing, but the shuttle part wasn't as nice as the one he restickered and cleaned up. So he combined two to make himself like the ultimate one, and then he gifted what he had left to a friend because someone did him a solid. Nice. So he paid it forward, and I think that's the way to do it. Even though it might just feel like get it over with, drop all the money, get it, just get it, have it there. I say stretch that out. Like, buy your figure, buy your Dusty in one shot, buy your Sky Striker, stretch the flag, stretch the Defiant, even the Terradrome more often comes all complete, but the flag or the Defiant, get two. And it's going to be so much cheaper because, it's missing things or the booster's yellow or something like that. Get two, put them together, and then either gift or if you want, you can sell off the remaining parts to kind of offset the cost of the first one that you got. And that's still, to me, one of my favorite experiences as an adult collector. Finding a flag locally, which I never thought I would, and I did. Like, oh my goodness, I found a local flag. And then I found another one months later. So it takes a lot of patience. And then when I put mine together, I had these parts left over, and there was a dude who's doing the same thing with his flag. And so I think he drove all the way from Detroit, which is like quite a drive to where I am outside of Toronto. And he was like, man, I just, thank you for letting me know about this. And, I'm looking forward to putting this together with my son. So yeah, just stretch it out, put 2 or 3 or 4 together, and, and help other people who are doing the exact same process too.
Yeah, I'd much rather do it over a long period of time. I mean, it's almost too much fun to buy it complete all at once and then it's done, right? I mean,
now
I've been
what?
looking forward. Yeah, exactly. Been looking forward to it so long. I mean, yeah, getting it a piece at a time. There's a certain, it was a challenge, like a treasure hunt.
And when you do finally get that flag, you're still not done because
No.
the ultimate lower deck edition is absolutely required. It is just
Absolutely.
It's just a big low table like that doesn't move without it.
I've watched your video about that like 100 times. It must be. And
Thank you.
G.I. Joe Berg, I think they've done the same thing.
They
or
originated the design. Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And Michael from Retro Blasting, I think he's done it as well. And yeah, just all those videos, just like, this is brilliant.
And I've seen some really amazing ones from people who like see the design and then they improve on it. Like I'm not crafty at all. I just got it done as bare minimum as I could. And mine isn't even like, my blocks aren't even screwed in. I can take it apart. Like, it's amazing that it just sits on the blocks. But if you were to give it a good nudge, then it would, I would sink the flag. It would be computer complications all over again. Like, no, only this time this wouldn't be raised. But I've seen other customs where like they double or triple decor it. They've added another one, and that starts to get really crazy. And lights too are absolutely necessary underneath. Luckily, you can go to IKEA these days and just get all of those, light panels or rope light and all that. Because the problem with the flags is it's so long and wide that even if you do that under base, it's black. It's pitch black under there. You can't see anything. And once you hit that light, and then you can change the colors too if you get the color changing ones like I did. You can go red alert, and you can go into the James Cameron blue color or whatever. That's all part of playing, or the word I like to use, it's used a lot in the 6th scale community collecting, is futzing. Futzing. When they're playing with the jackets and stuff, if you ever watch some of their videos, they really are, these people are artists who are, futzing with these figures. So you get a figure out of the box, a 12-inch figure, and, on the picture on the box looks spectacular. It looks like a little cinema cat, right? Like it looks like a live action person who's holding a gun or jumping or sword or whatever. You get it out of the box and the joints are all straight and the shirt looks, baggy or something, and the pants are kind of, coming out from the boots, and you're looking at it and going, this doesn't look good at all. How is this $200? This is not good. And then you see these futzers, professional futzers, and they give a little tug, kind of like that Picard tug at any time he would stand up. So a little tug here, a little pull there, a little that. And you wouldn't think from 5 minutes of futzing, but it's night and day. Like, now it looks like the picture. That's incredible. So
something you recently said there about the flag. I have a confession. The yellowing, I love the yellowing. Yes, I would never try to fix it, like on a flag, on Storm Shadow, on a cat, anything. I'm a big fan of the yellowing. Not a lot of my childhood toys yellowed. It's mostly the stuff I found on eBay or bought in lots. So I don't know what it is about it, but it's just that kind of off-white color that just feels natural and right to me. And it feels authentic. Like I see that color yellow and I know Hasbro 80s.
Yeah. Well,
like instantly.
I guess it's kind of like gray whiskers. You know, some people
Right.
feel the need to just ferment it out, and some people
Yep.
feel like I earned every one. So yeah, I totally get that. I
Yeah.
wish I was like that because when I see the yellow, I guess I'm striving for what it was like out of the box. And who knows, maybe someday that day will come where I'll be like, yeah, I get what he was saying about the yellowing, and I'm going to feel really silly for bleaching a whole superstructure of a flag. Like, oh no, leave it out in the sun for a year. Like, ah, good. What's the
Yeah.
what's the worst you've ever seen something yellowed?
Ooh, I got an Outback not too long ago, and
What shirt?
his shirt was the color of his skin, basically.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's brutal.
But I turned him into a
I
an
mean, that's
Arctic
fantastic.
Outback. Yes,
For you,
yeah.
it's
Oh, here,
fantastic.
I'll get him. So I turned him into an Arctic Outback,
Oh,
and
cool.
it looks sort of like he just doesn't have any sleeves. And I mean, Outback's like all tough, so what does he need sleeves for?
Yeah.
In the cold, just a blizzard body and Outback head and
Oh,
arms, and
he looks great. He actually kind of looks like it's Snow Job without all the headgear, because
exactly.
of the red hair and stuff. Cool. Have you I'm just looking through your pictures again. Have you done any of the Arctic stuff? Because yo snow.
I did one with a Kit Bash Duke back in February, I think. But I'm currently working on an entire Joe Arctic force. Got a couple of cats, polar battle bear. Just got some of the Black Major snow serpents. Been army building snow serpents all summer. Just painted a Stinger white. So I've got a bunch of Arctic themed photos coming up for winter.
I wish Instagram would say the date when something was posted. It just says 27 weeks ago, which
Oh, here
who knows what that is. But,
Mine
but I'm
is-
looking at
Yes.
I'm looking at the winter one with the polar battle bears and the snow cats blowing up. That's what I was talking about. Like, yes, yo, snow. Which, yeah, we haven't mentioned it yet. You're in Canada as well, like me. So to everyone out there listening, you're welcome for us not talking like Canadians, eh?
No doubt about it.
Take off, you hoser. You get people in your area talking like that, eh?
March 19th was the date of that one.
March 19th. Yeah, that's an awesome one. And there's a couple around there. Yeah, I see Duke on the Polar Battle Bear with the Canadian sticker on it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So I'm guessing that you prefer Canadian stickers over American stickers on your stuff?
I'm indifferent. Obviously, my childhood stuff has the Canadian on it. A lot of the stuff I get on eBay is from American sellers, so they'll have American on it. Some of the local stuff has American too, and really doesn't make any difference to me. Even if they don't have the stickers, it's just the vehicle I'm after. Like Toy Hacks has great stickers, so if I really want a specific look or whatever, I can always get what I need. I'm not really concerned about the actual original vintage stickers, but it's funny. Every once in a while, I'll get a comment. There's something wrong with your vehicle, man. I mean, you got the wrong stickers on it. Like, no, dude, in Halifax.
No, there's
Canada.
something wrong with the person who left the comment. and like I recently said in my one of my Real Talk videos, I don't have the time anymore for that type of stuff. My this is probably a good policy that for you to employ on your pictures as well. Love so many of the folks out there. Love you all so much. There's so many positive people out there who love what I'm doing, love what you're doing, and you folks absolutely rock. And there are a few people out there who are exactly like you just described. So I have a policy of not for everyone else who rocks, but for those few people who come along, just to kind of remind myself, get rid of it. Run from those folks. 2 compliments for every criticism. So if someone can look at one of your pictures and just, again, looking at them and just like the detail, the effort, the passion that you put into everything, if all of that can be ignored and the only contribution, I use the word contribution, that a person can make is you got that wrong or that's off or this or that, no, there's nothing wrong with what you got. There's something wrong with the person who's leaving the comment. So that to me is like, you don't want that in your life. And luckily, online, we have the tools in order to sever that relationship. And I think that's an incredibly healthy, very, very healthy thing to do.
Absolutely. And, I stayed away from reading and writing comments on Instagram for the longest time. I was just looking at photos, and I'd heard like all the YouTube stuff, and I used to have a YouTube channel for guitar work and synth work, and I used to build that sort of thing, and not really interested anymore, so I haven't touched that in forever. But I mean, the comments on YouTube just can be so toxic and not helpful at all. So when I started getting into this online and just looking at the pics, I wasn't reading anything and wasn't looking at anything, and slowly started to get into that. And I was so surprised that the Joe community was so helpful and supportive, and
the best.
Yeah, I mean, 99.9% positive, and that little bit of negativity is grossly overshadowed. Like it's so easy to take that one negative thing and dwell on it and have that break you down. And I don't find that with the Joe community. Like the positivity is just so big and genuine and open, and it's a great community to be a part of.
Yeah, so many G.I. Joe fans grew up to be real G.I. Joes. So in my videos, I sometimes talk about real G.I. Joes. Like Slaughter was a real G.I. Joe, and
yes.
Buzz Dixon, to me, is a real G.I. Joe. He served, and Larry Hama was a real G.I. Joe. When I hear from firefighters, police officers, public servants who risk their lives, and they're not just risking their lives. I like to remind myself, it's not just that they go out there and they risk their life. They're risking their children growing up without a father or a mother. And that, when you think about that, that makes the risk so much more dangerous in order to serve and protect.
Yeah,
and uphold, the safety of others. So those are all real G.I. Joes, but a guy who grew up or gal who grew up on playing with G.I. Joe and being a huge fan of G.I. Joe, and now works in an office or works in a factory or drives a truck. Real G.I. Joes, because of the way they live their lives, because of the way they treat other people. They live with empathy. They mind their manners. They're respectful. They follow a code, like an actual moral code, even when no one around them follows it. Even when everyone around them is doing the wrong thing, even when their company is telling them to do what they know in their heart is the wrong thing. Anyone who is told to do something that's wrong, even if it's the employer, and they know it's wrong, that's a real life G.I. Joe who says, no, I'm not going along with this. Not for any price. That's the same wiring deep down as anyone who served either in the army or police or firefighters.
I think true Joes stick to their core values, and Joe fans I find have the same set of core values, and we all come from different backgrounds, drastically different backgrounds from the people I've met over the last 6 months or so. But
which the Joes did too.
Yeah. And as soon as you identify them as a Joe fan, like it breaks down all those other barriers, and you don't see the stereotype or whatever, that first impression, and you have a common ground, and you know what those core values are, and those are the real Joes.
Absolutely. So we're coming up on an hour right now. So, as always, we're just going to keep on chatting, and that'll be up for the Patreon tribe as a Patreon exclusive as well. But just to close up here for the Toy Guys Talking video on YouTube and the podcast as well, what are you working on next, or can you share with us?
Next, I'm prototyping. I forget what it's called, but it was the Cobra Helicopter used in G.I. Joe Annual #2 with the October Guard. That purple.
Was it the Mamba?
Helicopter. No, it's not the Mamba. Same sort of color, but it was a personnel carrier. It kind of had like a cargo bay that it would pick up, and I've got the comic right here, actually.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, wild. Yeah, it is sort of Mamba-like.
So yeah, I bought a bunch of styrene. That's what they used on the Star Wars movies to make the Millennium Falcon and all that sort of thing. So I'm trying to make that and recreate that scene. It's one of the few toys that Hasbro didn't produce from the era that I'm into. That's going to be long term because there's a lot of skills I have to learn in that process. I'm very adept at making walls. I can make squares and smaller squares and rectangles, and those make really nice walls. But all the curved angles are going to be a little tougher. I'm working on some winter scenes with some customs and some Black Major toys, and some more box art and some comic covers. And yeah, I mean, that's what I have planned at the moment, but I find every few weeks that gets totally changed because I have some sort of breakthrough and I know how to do something I didn't know how to do, and that takes me in a whole nother direction. Like the clouds. I mean, the clouds were failed ice storm. I was trying, from that picture, that ice picture you showed, I was trying to do an ice storm in the background, and the cotton really wasn't working, and the projector happened to hit the cotton, and I'm like, oh, I know how to do clouds now. I have to shoot a raven. And I had zero plans to shoot anything later than 85. And well, I just need to shoot clouds, so let's put a raven up there.
I think what you'll find as you go along is you'll make more and more exceptions. Like there'll be like a raven is obvious exception. It's just gorgeous. It doesn't matter what year it came out. But then there's going to be other exceptions too. Like if do you have the mobile command center?
I don't have that. I did luck into a warthog, so that might have to make an appearance. I have a mean dog that's not complete that I'd really like to press into action. Just looking around, the whale. I'm on the fence. Do I shoot the whale without the veins? Because I don't have all 4 veins, so I can make them out of styrene and paint them. I could just bite the bullet and pay, what is it, like $100 a piece for all 4 of them?
You blow them up. You just they're lost in the explosion. So
cover
it with smoke. Smoke and mirrors.
It's funny. I did that on Destro's Despoiler. It didn't have the thruster, so I just put all the exhaust to cover the thruster. And
I was talking earlier. I don't think I finished this point. The Prime Jada, I hope I don't lose it again. The Prime Jada diecast Prime not being a complete toy, you need other stuff with it. The Despoiler, to me, isn't complete. You need the demon with it.
Yes.
Like, it goes on the demon, and it's a little thing that detaches. Destro's not supposed to, like, I like the Despoiler, but it's not really his version of the air chariot. He needs to be on a demon, going, go and do this and attack and fire missiles. And then if he has to, must I do this myself? And he detaches, right? But to me, I've always just had the Despoiler on the demon. And that's his whole chariot.
So good on the demon. I have the demon. I don't have the treads. I just have the top part. I got it at a yard sale when I was 10 or 11.
Okay.
And at the time it's like, what is this? And just kind of threw it in the leftover Joe's pile, and it just sat there until I got a Despoiler and went, oh, that goes onto there. And wow, did it ever look hot.
Anyone listening out there, if you got a spare pair of treads, hook a good brother up here.
I'm into tradesies. I got all kinds of good stuff.
And you could probably trade smoke and explosions and lasers. Last question before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
So what about vehicles that aren't G.I. Joe but should have been or perfectly fit? There's a toy line, I think it's called True Heroes. They did a Hercules, the cargo ship.
Yeah.
And I've got one of those, and that one impresses me so much. It sits on my flag a lot of the time. Because even though it's not from the 80s, that should have been a 1987 or 88 vehicle for sure. Exactly as it is. Like size, construction. Would you ever put some Joes in something that's not an official Joe vehicle but fits in perfectly?
It's funny you should mention that, because that is on my list to buy for a couple of comic covers.
Yeah.
That exact
the Herc.
Yeah, True Heroes Herc is required for. I
Snake
might have
eyes
to
jumping out of it for silent interlude.
Yes, that would work. There's another one with Lady J coming out of I don't know what it's called. Starts with an M. Later G.I. Joe tank, and I think there's bats down on the highway, and she's coming out of the Herc, and there's a lot of good stuff in that line. Some of it's a little small to like have vehicles coming out of other vehicles.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll probably get it and then use it to kit bash parts for making other custom bigger vehicles. I'm not opposed to using anything that looks good.
Awesome. I just love that you're not, what's the word, like purist or something, or a toy snob. It must be this or that. Like it's good to have certain guidelines. You can have a cutoff, but be flexible too.
Yeah.
Make exceptions based on how you feel. Because if you have like a one and done rule and it's not governed by how you feel, then people miss out on some really good stuff sometimes. Like, no, I have a 85 cutoff, no exceptions. And then they come to a yard sale and there's a complete mobile command center for $40. Nope, I don't collect past 85. Well,
no.
If that's the way you want to be, that's fine. But, I've often said like Defiant, it's not in the cards for me. I don't have the money and I don't have the space. But if I came across a Defiant, and I've also said, the Space Joe thing isn't really my deal. But if I was ever in that situation, I'm bringing a Defiant home.
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat.
I think I'll feel very good about that in the moment.
Yes, sir.
$900 for a Defiant, I wouldn't feel too good about that. But take it off my hands for a couple bucks. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, totally.
We're at an hour here. It's just flown by. It always does. But I've had a blast talking to you about G.I. Joe and the picture process. And I feel like we just scratched the surface here. So let's keep the chat going. We're going to do a little bit more for a Patreon exclusive. But for now, thanks for joining me. Do you want to share the different social media locations where people can see your pictures?
You can find me at Mate Mylar on Instagram and at the Ghost Machine It's like machine, but with an A on Twitter. Twitter is just for B-sides, and I don't really like to repeat myself and like have the same content on both social platforms. So Instagram is my main one, and then if I get a good alternate take, different lighting, or maybe a different angle, I'll put that on Twitter. But Mate Mylar at Instagram.com.
Yeah. Do you have a Facebook?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Facebook free for 8 years. See this? This is because no Facebook.
I pretty much feel the same way. And like, as far as my private Facebook account, I came to the same conclusion. Seem to be really, they say vibing. I guess that's the word. We're really vibing here. I had the exact same feeling because at one point I had, I forget what the number was. It must have been in the thousands because I had worked with film festivals and, that whole film community. And that number just explodes up. And then and I was helping everybody I could possibly help. And, when it came time to ask for help for something and I started to hear crickets and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? I'm supposed to have, thousands of friends here. So I drastically reduced my friends list on my private profile. But then when I started to do the YouTube channel, I just started up like a page that you can like for my videos. And when you said you don't repeat yourself, that's me. That's guilty. Guilty.
I don't mean it in a negative way. It's not like
I know.
Thou shalt not repeat. Just me personally, I don't like putting the same thing out.
I totally get it. The reason I do it is because I know there's people who only do Facebook or only do Twitter or only do this. And so for those people who won't see it anywhere else, I just go, well, you know what? I'll put it everywhere. And if someone feels like, oh, this again, I'm on my like fourth social media platform and he's posting again. I am just not for those people who see it everywhere. It's for the people who, just, it's all about what you feel, right? That's what we said earlier. And some people just don't feel Twitter. Yeah, I'll never understand why there are people who don't like Twitter. I find all of these platforms are fine as long as you don't really try to start trouble. If you're looking to instigate something, it's good to feel passionate about things. But there's some people who don't really mind their manners, and you get what you give. I think on any social media platform.
Absolutely.
So huge thanks. Looking forward to chatting with you again. And everyone out there, thanks so much for watching on YouTube or listening now on the podcast, which is coming out of Podbean. I'm still learning how to do all this podcasting stuff. I use Stitcher personally, so you can catch it on Stitcher. It's on iTunes, I believe. A lot of my favorite podcasts I listen to are always saying, leave a review, and they always ask, leave a 5-star review. I feel weird asking people leave a 5-star review. Leave a review of what you feel. But apparently that helps. So it's all about, what's that word? Algorithms and all that stuff. I don't sweat that stuff too much, but I just want to let people know that you can listen to this on the go, in case you didn't know. And if there's a podcast catcher that anyone out there uses and they're not finding either Toy Guys Talking, or I've stuck my name in there too to make it easier to find, Michael Mercy Presents Toy Guys Talking. Leave a comment on this video or somewhere else, because I'm going to post it everywhere. It's also easier for people to get a hold of me because it's everywhere. Let me know what the podcast catcher is called, and I'll try to hook that stuff all up. So thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Matt. Big thanks. Keep up the awesome work, man. I absolutely love your pictures, and people say it to me all the time, and I'm very grateful. And I feel like I'm really quoting what I've heard a lot. Like, you really reinvigorate my passion for G.I. Joe.
Wow.
Thank you. Because you just bring the toys to life. You open a time warp, and you make this stuff as special as it actually is. So thank you for that.
Amazing. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great week. And if you can't, make one. Or stay.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe!